Hello everyone, my name is Ryan Darbhanga, and today we're going to be talking about, are the UK's net zero zones really working? This is going to be a carbon emissions breakdown. The first question we have to ask is, what is a net zero carbon zone? Well, a net zero carbon zone is an area designed to drastically reduce emissions from high emission vehicles and also vehicles in general, and to promote electric transport. And this is part of the UK's goal to reduce carbon emissions by 2050. As you can see here, today we're going to be focusing on the UK, specifically the country of England, and on the top right is the NHS's platform for how they're going to reduce carbon emissions. As you can see here, by 2040, the NHS plans to make road transport completely sustainable and zero carbon. And on the bottom right, we see is the carbon trajectory path of the UK if it implements these proposed plans by 2050. Cities across England, such as Bradford, Birmingham, and Oxford, have planned out highly ambitious net zero carbon zones to combat climate change, to make things more affordable, and to make people healthier. However, the big question is, are they working? And are they still going to work in the future? To answer this question and analyze it, we need to go back and further explain on what is a net zero carbon zone. Well, there are different classes of net zero carbon zones. There are Class A, Class B, Class C, and Class D. Each class has its own vehicles which are permitted and which are charged. And in Oxford, there is a ZEZ, which is a zero emissions zone, which means that there are no types of petrol vehicles that are allowed to go. If you do, you are going to get charged. On the left and the right, there are different locations across the country in the United Kingdom where these zones are located. For example, Bradford is a Class C zone. On the bottom left is Birmingham. That's an example of a real life situation where cars are permitted and cars are charged. And in the center is Oxford with its ZEZ, the zero emissions zone. So, how are these zones performing in the real world? Let's take a look and break it down. Well, here are some results. In the top left corner, we have greenhouse gas emissions by transport mode. And as you can see, there is a negative trend in the amount of emissions between cars and taxis from 1990 to 2021, which is good. In the top right corner, where it says air pollution in cities, the average emissions of nitrogen dioxide have decreased significantly in a year span. And in the center right, we see the Oxford Zero Emission Zone Pilot Scheme. This is a report from the City Council itself. And as you can see, the amount of cars and vehicles that are moving are significantly reduced. And we also see Birmingham on the center left, where it's an average 13% decrease in carbon emissions. And an article claiming that Bradford Clean Air saves the National Health Service over £30,000 a month after its implementation in the first year. That all sounds promising, but what about carbon? In 2022, the UK reduced its emissions by 3.5%, and the major reductions came from electricity, not transportation. Transportation still, however, remains the UK's number one source of emissions, and despite local wins, these zones have not made a dent at the national level yet. As you can see here at the top left corner are greenhouse emissions by sector. And although transportation and energy are decreasing, it's not the rate climate scientists would like to see. In the bottom left corner, the UK budget, the amount of carbon that needs to be reduced is not feasible in the amount of time in 2050 with its current budget allocation for carbon reduction. And in the top right corner, we still see that energy and transportation are the biggest sectors of emissions produced by the UK. There are four things holding us back: the cost of electrical cars, the infrastructure of electrical charging, the political discourse, and the speedy quality of electrical devices. What needs to change? More rural alternatives, more charging devices, more infrastructure, more enforcement, and more networks. That about sums it all up. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something new, and I hope you like this video.